Most people get this part of the bubble dress wrong and it ruins the entire look. Let me show you the right way. I decided to use 3 yards of fabric. In case you're on a big size, you can decide to use 4 yards, okay? So let's get started. Here we are already writing out our measurement and what we are going to be needing. So our shoulder length is 16. Normal shoulder length 16 minus 2 is giving us 14. So 14 divided by 2 is 7 inches. So 7 inches is what we are going to be using. Then move to the bust. The bust is 35 divided by 4. We are having 8.75. okay, that is 8 3/4. Okay, so let's move on to the waistline. The waist is 28, and because we want it to be snatched a little bit, so we minus 2 from the 28, giving us 26. So 26 divided by 4 is giving us 6.5. okay, so let's move on to the hip. The hip measurement is actually 39. okay, so 39 divided by 4 is giving us 9.75. So just in case, because we are not going to be needing the hip measurement actually, so let's get started, because you are going to see how I'll be able to use the hip and not fully on the dress. Okay, so we have to use the shoulder to the bust line, shoulder to your under bust, and shoulder to the half length, and also the full length of the dress. Okay, so this is where you can see how I'm writing out all these parameters and actually divided them. So to get started, I'm going to be imputing all these measurements on this pattern paper. So to start with, we are going to be minusing 6 from it. Okay, so we'll start measuring from that 6. So you measure from 6 to your bust line. That is your shoulder. We're assuming that 6 is our shoulder, so we marked all the parameters we needed. Okay, so we actually rule out a straight line all around the pattern paper like this. Okay, so just in case, because the reason why we are actually ruling out this straight line is because we'll be using the same pattern to draft out the back piece. Okay, so after imputing and after writing down what will be needed, so move ahead to measure the shoulder. So the shoulder is 14 inches divided by 2 is 7 inches. So we'll go down to our armhole. So our normal armhole is 15. So for here we are going to be needing what's it called, we're going to be adding about 1.5 inches to the number armhole. That's because the outer neck is going to be coming down to that armhole, so whatever we have there is what we are going to be used for the outer neck. Okay, so from there we measure our bust, our nipple to nipple point of 8 inches divided by 2, we have 4 inches. Okay, so from that under bust we measure 2 inches on the side front. Okay, then on the half length, which is the waist, we measure 1.5. Then we went to the hip side, we measure, that's the full length of the up side, so we measure 1 inch. Then we went to the other side to measure half inch together, and also we measured half inch on the under bust and then connected this line together. Just keep watching and see how I'm able to do it. Then we use our curve ruler to curve out this straight line to meet up with what we have at the bust line. Okay, and we also did the same thing to the other side, which is the side front. So we'll move ahead to start imputing all measurements. Okay, so on the other upper side we went in, we minus half and 1 inch on the both side, you can see. Then on the other side, which is the side front, we measured 1.5 inches. So whatever we have there, which is 2.5, we actually transferred it back to the armhole just like this. So we connected the armhole curve together to meet with what we had there. Okay, so we'll now move on to measure all that we already did there to get what we have, like the measurement of the dart. If it's 2.5 inches, you um you'll be adding that 2.5 inches to your normal body measurement. Okay, so for the bust line, I measured my bust line, and because we didn't really deduct any made any dart on the bust line, so we are just making our bust line to be normal. So on the waist and on the under bust, so whatever we have, whatever our measure around bust measurement is, we are going to measure it there and add our dart measurement to it. So we also, on the waistline, sorry, on the hip line that I said earlier, that our hip line is not going to be needed. We are not going to be using the hip line, so we are only going to be adding the hip line just to measure the hip line first, before we are going to be curving out this waist to the hip side, which is the downside of the upper bubble. Okay, so this is how we are going to be connecting. You can see that at last we didn't use the hip measurements that we did before earlier. So we are going to be connecting all the straight line we did at the front pattern to use it for our back piece. Okay, so after doing that, we will move ahead to measure our shoulder measurement, which is 7. Then from there we'll go up by 6 inches to measure our armhole, and we said our normal armhole is 15 inches, but here we are going to be adding 1.5, that is 9 inches. Okay, so we connected it together and you can see how beautiful it's already giving. Okay, so from that point we connected the armhole curve together like this, and then move ahead to measure nipple to nipple point of 8 inches divided by 2. So 8 inches divided by 2 is 4 inches, so measure 4 inches all round. Then we connected a straight line to it like this. Then on that straight line we measure half an inch on both sides like this. So after measuring half an inch on both sides on the half length, then on the bust line, we'll connect a straight line together to it to meet with what we had there, and then use the curved side of the ruler to connect it to the upper side, which is the shoulder, that we assume is the shoulder. Okay, then we'll now move ahead to measure our round measurement, our round body measurement, which is the bust line. We measured it and we added about 1.5 inches for the sewing allowance. Okay, just for you to get for you to understand better. We also moved to the waistline and impute our round waist measurement, and then added 1.5 inches for the sewing allowance. At the end of the day, we connected the line together like this to give what we needed. So we also connected the armhole to meet with what we have for the back pattern, and don't forget to indicate the side front and the side back. Okay, so that you will not be able to you'll be able to trace it out, and while cutting you'll be able to know what you're cutting. And from the back length, you're going to be deducting about 1.5 from the back center back, that is for the loop that you're going to fix in at the back. So just in case, you could decide to minus 2 inches from your own. I really don't want this to be too snatched on the person. Okay, so from here you're going to move on to the cutting process. So before then, you're going to be measuring the neckline for the back. So I really want the neckline for the back to be a little bit low, so I made it 9 inches. That is, after deducting the 6 inches minus the 6 inches, I also added 3 inches, so that made it 9 inches that I minus from the back. Okay, so and let's move on to the cutting process. So So after cutting, this is where at the front you'll be able to use your masking tape to hold the two front together, and then to get the curve that will actually, after sewing, it will not be, one will not be bigger than the other. Okay, so after all this cutting, we'll move on to placing this pattern on our fabric to cut out the pieces on the fabric. Okay, so let's move on to cutting the bubble, which is the interesting part of this video. Okay, so we're going to be folding this fabric into 2 equal parts, and also fold it back into another 2 equal parts. That makes it 4, folded into 4 equal parts. Okay, so from there, the measurement we're going to be needing is your waistline divided by 6.28. that is what we are doing on this part. You can see what I'm calculating here. We have my waistline divided by 6.28. okay, just in case you want to make yours, endeavor to use 6.28 for the measurement for the waistline, and whatever you get is what you are going to be using to mark out on this point. Okay, and move on to the cutting. So after cutting it, you're going to start by measuring the full length of your dress. From your half length, you're going to get the normal full length of what you will be for the down part, then times what you have there by 2. Let's assume you have 18 inches for the length of the bubble, so you're going to be making in total of 36 inches. That's what you'll be cutting for this down part. That is why I said endeavor to use a very large fabric, so that you'll be able to get this pattern, and you'll be able to get this dress very well. So to get the bubble, you're going to be bringing up the down part to meet up with what you cut for the waistline, and then gather that part together with the down part, and you can see how lovely it looks after sewing it. Okay, so from there, we are going to be placing all the upper pieces here, and then joining them together. But before that, we are going to be cutting out the lining for all these upper parts. Okay, also from this point, you're going to be cutting a long stripe for the loop at the back. Okay, so you'll be cutting like about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, and fold it together just like this on the machine to get your loop. And this is how it looks after fixing the loop to the back pattern and also sewing all the pieces together. Then we'll move on to joining all these pieces, but before that, we're going to be using our our lining to make an interface, which is joined together with the front piece like this. And after joining, we are going to be joining the front and the back pattern together, so facing each other. So we are going to be joining the lining separately and also the fabric separately. Okay, so this is how we are going to be doing it. You're going to be using your pin to hold all these pieces together, and then proceed to measuring, getting the midpoint of your front piece and the back piece, and then just imputing all your body measurements that we already did from the first start. Okay, and after this is what we are going to be having after joining all the lining and the fabric together. So after getting this, we are going to be joining the bubble together with the front piece like this. So this is what we have, and we are going to be using our pin to hold all the two pieces together just to have a perfect look. And I'm sure you can see what I'm doing here, so you should be careful on doing this. So you are going to be leaving about 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance, okay, before sewing all this pattern together. So after joining, you're going to place this on the mannequin and then measure all this part together to get this proper look. And I'm sure you love this dress. So see you guys on my next video. Bye.